Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the new Gems of War hero class of the Nightweaver. So this hero class is kind of like Titan, in that it's trying to be like a wide range of various things. I don't personally feel like it excels at anything in particular. However, there are a few very niche purposes that it does end up ultimately having. So we're going to go over a team just for the standard set, a couple teams that you can use with the class itself as well, and of course go over the trees, which will be the first thing that we go for, as far as what you might want to go as far as tree builds and similar things for this. First things first, the 3 traits that you're going to have guaranteed. So these are all mystic based and magic based. The first one is just simply gain some life, pretty much pointless, but the other two are a little bit more relevant. Arcane, it gains 1 additional magic every time an ally casts a spell, including itself. And it also gives 2 magic to all mystic allies when matching purple gems. So this is pretty good if you're going to be spamming purple on mystic teams. This is very niche, of course. There are very few situations where you can really get this off. Luckily, the kingdom is primarily based on mystic, so as more troops come to the Mydnight kingdom, maybe there'll be more synergies overall as far as we can ultimately end up doing with it. But there are a few things that can end up synergizing pretty well with it, most notably Vespera. Since she can spam down the purple route and she is a mystic herself, gaining a lot of additional magic, and I would say is one of the bigger things that can actually end up utilizing it as of currently. Aside from that, as weird as that may seem, or how spell-based that may seem, it's a little bit weird that pretty much all of its trees are skull-based. On its very first option, you'd pretty much always go Hunter's Mark, it's just a lot of free damage. On its next range, you can either go for the dagger bonus if you're going a dagger, otherwise, unless they have something that really hard counters, whenever you keep stealing life from them, you'd probably just want to get a little bit extra life steal. You're likely going to be taking a lot of purple anyways if you're ever using this hero class, so you get an extra 1 life steal every time you do. They'll take 1 damage, you gain 1 health. As far as the next round, it really depends if you're using it to tank or not. Normally you would go down the disease route, however there are some circumstances where you might want to have the 20% summon, but more often than not you are probably taking the disease so that they get mana less often. For the next one, we have 2. Once again, it depends if you want to tank more or not. Like in a skull spam like team, you're definitely going to want to have the bandit resummon, whereas in something more cast based or Vespera based, you're almost guaranteed going to be going down the Darkstorm. On the next one, if you didn't go Darkstorm, you'd probably go Doomstorm if you're going down more the skull based route. However, the main one that you would normally go for here would end up being the Stealthy. Stealthy will make it so your hero can't end up being targeting, and will be the one that is probably taken more often unless really going skull heavy with this. On our next one, we have probably 30% dodge. As you really just want to take that little bit of poison, there's pretty much always just going to go dodge. It's similar to that of Hunter's Mark, in that even though there's like a small alternative, it's just doing so much value already. Even if you're going down a different route, you probably still just want to have the survivability, or the one that just does more value overall. In this case, it's going to be dodge and Hunter's Mark over both of the other options. And on the very last one, you will always end up going Rising Shadows, a 7% chance to assassinate the last enemy whenever you get a kill. However, one interesting thing about this is, despite this being on a tree of a location of this kingdom, Terror, if I'm not mistaken, does not count as a kill towards this 7% chance, because they're fleeing rather than actually dying, so I'm pretty sure Rising Shadows does not actually trigger on Terror effect, which is a little bit weird that this is one of its trees, because of course, not much of a synergy there. However, it is a stronger one nonetheless. So in conclusion, if you're going to be building with this, this is most likely going to be a general build, be Hunter's Mark, Dark Hunger, Plague Bearer, the Dusk's Aura, Stealthy, Dodge, and then Rising Shadows would end up being your build. So that'd be a 3-1-1-2-2-3-2. And I'll make sure to have that marked on all of the teams as well when we end up copy-pasting them into the description below. Simply because you can actually just adjust those numbers and you'll instantly have them set. So you can just copy-paste them even if you have a higher or lower amount of these unlocks, and you'll still be able to go and get them all in. I would say that's your general build. The only time you'd really tweak from it is going for more of the more summon-based ones, where you would replace out the 10th one for, or level 10 one for the resummon, the 20th one for the resummon again, and then the 40th one for the Doomstorm. But aside from that, you would most likely go the other route every single time in most general teams, unless going really skull heavy with this hero class. That's a rundown on that. Let's actually go show a couple of the teams. So first things first, let's go over the actual event team, which we probably should have done while we're already over there. So this is pretty straightforward. Obviously, we have almost nothing to use in this category. This hero class counts as a Mystic, specifically from, obviously, Mydnight Kingdom. So we are restricted to specifically Mystics that are from that location. So we're just going with our Archmage's Quick Kill using the Fear as a purple link. So we're simply just doing this so whenever we take purple, we essentially gain instant full mana, cast Black Manacle or similar purple equivalent weapon, and kill out everything. And just rinse and repeat until you've taken out the event. Generally, you still want to do the free battles. You can mass buy EXP if you want. I actually opted not to this time around. It's because we have so many other things to spend EXP on these days that, or to spend gems on these days, that, I don't know, it's still overpriced. It's basically like a gem per EXP, slightly more as you get there. And given how much EXP you need, a little over 5,000, it's pretty pricey. So I'm personally just going to be grinding out on the new PvP system to get all the EXP. Plus you get a little bit of EXP per usual from the event itself. But anyways, the other two teams, I really actually like the main Mystic team that it can end up being used for. It's one of the few times where I feel like Mystic Vespera could actually be pretty viable. So what we're doing here is another one that's generally not used that often. Mad Prophet. I almost forgot this thing even counts as a Mystic. I knew it counted as a human, forgot it counted as a Mystic. Oh, a little bit of a bad starting board here though. But we can work with that. We're mostly just looking for a lot of purple very quickly. Kind of like the whole Throw issue, but once you get it, you are good to go. Similar to Throw, and I think we have indeed gotten it. So we're going to do this just to get a little bit of mana and everything going. Actually, you know what? We could use it as a backup. I'm actually not going to cast it yet. So we're going to just go and spam on hero here. Basically, what Mystic Vespera does is she gives a bunch of stats to a random skill of an ally, whichever one you end up targeting. And then creates 9 gems of any of their mana colors, and then repeats this 2 more times. So it's guaranteed to trigger on whatever you target, and then random on the other 2. What we end up doing here is using a lot of pure purple on the team, so that ideally it's pretty much just going to create purple every single time. This is not only giving us extra magic to all of our Mystics, which includes our whole team, but is also giving a ton of extra magic to our hero. As you can see, we have 223 damage, and because we're giving magic to all other allies, we're also giving our Vespera a ton of extra magic. So as you can see right now, we're up to 309, and yeah, you can just do this infinitely until you have one shot or however else you want to end up doing it. And as you can see right here, boom, dead. And yeah, Vespera has always been a pretty fun team for just getting like absurd stats, and is even better now. This will be the main synergy troop or class that you would use with Vespera going forward. In any Vespera team. Ideally, purple-based Vespera teams are going to be the main ones to use now, simply because you do need it specifically be purple, unfortunately. It's not simply extra turn, it has to specifically be purple, which does a little bit limit what Vespera does. Obviously, it can still be used for yellow and blue, but purple is definitely its strongest angle now, due to the amount of magic it just gained passively from that. So, interesting to see how that pans out in the future, especially as we get more options for Mystics that are a little bit better. I like this, obviously, just another little AoE kind of thing, but if we can, well, also still having some magic steal. But if we can start getting some really good Mystics for this, which I assume may be the next Mythic, or I should say the only Mythic, since there's currently no Mythics for Mydnight. Maybe the Mythic there will end up being really good with this, who knows. But whatever we end up getting, it definitely could use some improvements, but honestly, still works pretty good in the current state of the game. You might also notice we're using Fiendfire here. One thing I didn't actually go over with this class, the class weapon is basically Fiendfire, but different. Ends up dealing damage to an enemy, and then curses and inflicts terror to all enemies above them. So as long as the last slot on the enemy team does not have stealthy, which that's generally a pretty uncommon spot to have stealthy, not to say there wouldn't be, but normally like second or third slot are some of the more common stealthy locations. Not too often that you see it specifically in fourth, especially on like a player constructed team, but it could still happen. But basically, as long as the enemy team does not have stealthy on their last slot, you can full AoE their entire team, cursing everything and terroring everything. So that's pretty good synergy. Just throw, if you could ever get something else that has a death mark to go with that, boom. You just cursed, terrored, and death marked everything. But the weapon itself already just curse and terroring everything, pretty strong. Terror, of course, making it so that they will potentially flee, as well as get disoriented, and Curse making it so the effect will stay around longer, as well as get rid of any immunities that they might end up having, so that you can end up placing Terror on them, as well as additional effects into the future, as well as Death Mark, Stun, anything else that you want to put on them. So there's a lot of potential to basically be just the other weapon. It's pretty much just Diabolus's weapon of Fiendfire, except instead of being Curse Burn, it is Curse Terror, which honestly is kind of better. The only big downside of this newer weapon is more so that if the enemy slot has stealthy on last slot. But aside from that, it's pretty much just better in most situations. So interesting to see how that pans out in the future. Obviously, we don't have it here yet, but we will later. Just need to get 250 wins to get it. You could also spend a bunch of gems on the event, but 250 wins is the advised way, as you can end up getting it for free. Anyways, let's go with the final battle here, and this is going to be a low rarity team, as well as being a skull-oriented team. So while we don't have all the trees unlocked, as you see, we are only at, what, level 21 right now, this thing does get a lot of skull-related benefits, and while we won't be able to fully show it off right now, this is kind of the premise of the team that we're going with here, to try to utilize it for a little bit more of the skull route. So we have a lot of converts, of course, which we ideally would have alignments on, which I don't think we do right now, but that's not going to stop me from clicking them. So we'll click on that, go for the other one. We have our alignment, obviously give armor to our first slot. Keep getting as much damage pressure as we possibly can. We're going to be using one non-low rarity thing. It is actually the Grasping Grimoire. This is mostly because it's the main thing that kind of puts things together. It ends up boosting based on all Mystic allies. We kind of need to just kind of set things in motion. Which we haven't actually needed to cast it a single time yet, oddly enough, but it was mostly just a backup plan for it. And also one of the only few viable hero weapons that we really have for a situation like this. So one thing that's pretty nice about this team is a lot of the manas on the team kind of synergize with each other. So whenever we cast one, we can kind of cast them into other things. So for example, if we go for, let's go for the Grimoire, we'll be able to get synergy, like for example, the yellow convert here, and also get over our mana. We also have cleanse for situations like this. One of the reasons why we actually went with Beatrix, other than the fact that Mystic doesn't really have too many good skull options, is that we can end up utilizing that in order to cleanse off freeze and tangle and other similar ailments. So we're just kind of moving this over. Ideally, we'll have alignment from those brown. So of course, Beatrix creates brown, which we then use to synergize straight into our alignment. Ideally, we'll have the other one as well. Can we end up getting it here? I don't think we do, so let's go for another Beatrix, and I think that's already dead because of split damage there. There we go. Just a nice little Mystic team. And of course, the Beatrix the whole time was gaining additional magic every single time we take any purple there, which wasn't too often, obviously, with this team. We mostly just get it when we do the Grimoire if we randomly find one there, but a little way to kind of utilize both its magic gain as well as its skull gain. It's a bit of a weird mix. I still feel like Titan is a substantially better mixed kind of class that is good at doing a wide range of things. This does a wide range of things in a bit of a weirder way. It kind of works for some things, kind of doesn't. The biggest issue with it is, unlike something like Titan that's pretty flexible even outside of Giants, this one is not that flexible if you try to use it outside of Mystics. Pretty much most of its value is from Mystics. Of course, you can still gain the benefit to yourself if you were the only Mystic on your team, you know, the hero itself. However, not being able to get it on your other allies is just getting rid of a lot of its value that other troops could already be doing better. So a very niche hero class that as we get more Mystics added to the game will definitely expand a lot more. But I definitely have to say by far, Vespera. Vespera is like the main and only thing I feel like you would use it for right now. It is just so good and fun. I absolutely love this thing. I've always been a big fan of Vespera. I just always felt like it's been a bit of a slow, gimmicky team. And even now, I still feel like it's a slow, gimmicky team. But gosh, this is a fun, slow, gimmicky team. So you just go like crazy on stats. If we want to right now, we can just go max out literally every stat if we want to. I don't think we have any extra turn. We can finally go cast him for his actual purpose there. And now we just kind of go crazy. Get over our magic up. Ideally, her upgrading herself with magic would be kind of good. I almost want her to cast on herself. I've kind of forgot. We can just literally click on her if we want to. Extra turn chance might be a little bit wonkier because she'll be creating a higher chance of, you know, mix like she just did there, which if that happens, that is very bad because we actually lose all of our mana potential. But hey, at least we get to utilize these two now. So this thing, which one do I have to target again? Which one is this? All enemies above them. So I target last slot, boom, and then we go for our weapon, boom, dead. And of course, this weapon can also be replaced out for the new weapon once we end up getting that 250 kills, if we want to go down that Cursed Terror route instead of using the older version of it, or any other purple weapon, as long as it's only using one color. So you can use Creeping Death, any of the other like full AoE purple weapons. But anyways, guys, that's a new hero class. I see it having some potential in the future. It's really going to be dependent on big like mythics that come into the future that are Mystic. Obviously, Vespera is one of the bigger builds that you can do it around right now, but curious to see what it has potential for in the future. It's definitely not one of those out-of-the-box kind of hero classes that's just immediately broken like Elementals or something. But I don't know, definitely keep an eye on it. It's definitely not one of those hero classes you're going to use that often, but would definitely advise getting at least to like level 70 over the next like week or so if you're not going to max it all the way. as, oh yeah, it might have some synergies going forward, especially by the time we get all the troops for this new kingdom. Obviously, ideally, it would have synergy with his own kingdom, so hopefully we'll get some kind of good mythic for it, some kind of new legend for it, something that can really put the synergy together, as it's still missing a few components to really make it work perfectly. But definitely worth keeping your eye on the hero class, as eventually it'll be quite a bit better than it is now. But right now, I would say it is pretty average outside a few pretty niche teams that aren't really ran that often. But anyways, guys, that's a rundown on the hero class. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave in the comment section below. All of the teams mentioned were in the description. And I will catch you guys later. Have a wonderful weekend. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for watching.